Welcome to Friday, the end of another week as we get ready to roll into the experimental phase of the New Rules for Work experiment. As a reminder, I'm one of your organizers and hosts. I'm Elise Key.
I'm Dave Mastronardi.
And we thought we'd take these Friday times to update you on what's been going on since we last talked. So we're going to go over some questions we've received this week.
That's right. The first question that we got is pretty general. Elise, what are we up to right now?
So it seems quiet from the outside, but it's actually really busy. We have selected some final designs to use in the experiment, and those are getting built out so that all the materials teams need to run through the experiment are ready to go. We're also finalizing the surveys and the material that will be used on the research side of this experiment and getting that all ready to submit for Ethics Review Board approval. That approval is required before we're able to finalize any of our scheduling. So that's our hot mission and our hot deadline right now. Finally, we're also actively recruiting experiment teams to participate in the experiment, obviously, and we'll be talking about that more in a second. Now, one of the other questions we received was, okay, you selected designs. Can we see them?
So you can't see the details of these designs just yet. When the ethics review is completed and, of course, approved, we're going to share. In the meantime, we're running walkthroughs with the selected designers, and we're optimizing for time and technology to work any of the kinks out. If you are going to participate in the experiment, the designs are going to be assigned randomly. And if you're going to facilitate the design, before you do the facilitation, you're going to receive some training. There'll be a session where we get together, but we're also developing a facilitator kit. And so we selected meeting designs. In addition, we also selected challenges, and people were curious about which challenges ended up getting selected, at least.
We had a whole bunch of interesting challenges submitted during the symposium in the crowdsourcing activity, and one of those rose to the top. So the number one challenge in the crowdsourced activity was, how might we engage citizens in policymaking? So we're moving forward with that in a slightly reworded way, instead of policymaking specifically, to make that challenge more broadly applicable to more people in more settings. That one is now going to be, how might we bring unheard voices into the places where decisions are made? And now we're working with policy-making groups at the local level, so regional level, and at the national level to talk about some of the hurdles that are involved in getting people involved in decision-making. And of course, that's a question you can often interpret as applying to your own company, right? How do we make sure that we get more people involved in the decisions that we're making as a group? In addition to the challenge that came from the crowdsourcing, added two challenges that came from our advisors and some of our speakers at the symposium that help fill out some of this return to work conversation. So the second challenge is, how might we be more integrated as a whole while simultaneously operating more autonomously? And really, that's the fundamental question of this hybrid work world, right? How do we act as a unit while at the same time act independently more often? So opportunities for some really rich conversations there. And then the final one, which is just completely on the nose for this question about where we meet, is, what are some creative alternative uses for underutilized commercial buildings that might help solve one of the world's big problems? Looking forward to seeing what comes out for all of these. So we've got challenges, we have designs. The next question is, who exactly is going to run that design to solve those challenges, and when are they going to do that? So specifically, how are the experiment teams getting scheduled? And if you've signed up, what happens next?
So if you have signed up through the type form, or if you'd like to, we have a link back in the email. We are going to get in touch with you and we are going to coordinate. Of course, we're also looking to get experiment partners who might be willing to let us run 10, 12, 15, 20 meetings within their organization. We're shooting to get 500 meetings. And we think one of the best ways to do that is with organizational experiment partners. So if you work for a company, if you are part of an organization, it could be a nonprofit, it could be volunteer, that would be curious to understand how your employees, how your members work creatively, collaboratively, whether they're in a hybrid environment, whether they're all in the same place, or whether they're all virtual. We will come in, at least myself, some of our advisors, will come to you and we will run this meeting as many times as we can in a limited period of time. And we'll share the data with those organizations as well. So again, if you are interested in this, if you know somebody in your organization who might be interested in this, please let us know and we can start having those conversations, because there is going to be a little bit of setup involved. And in some of the conversations we've had in this regard, privacy and security of that organizational data has come up. And specifically, how are we handling the privacy and the security of the data that we're going to be collecting during our research?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So first of all, in the experiment, we are collecting survey data before the experiment starts. So the team walks in and they fill out some information. Then they run a 60-minute meeting, which is recorded. And then there is a post-meeting survey that tracks things like, how well they felt that went. So all of that survey data will be depersonalized and anonymized as part of the research preparation process. We will, during the experiment itself, collect some identifying data, such as people's names, but that's only used to link the different surveys in the experiment together. Once those are linked, that identifying information, like your name, will be erased or removed from the data entirely. The authorized research teams will be working with anonymized data when they conduct their analysis. All publicly shared reports and publications that come out afterwards will share aggregated and anonymized information. So, for example, the report might show that 50% of hybrid teams who meet in a hybrid way thought that was super awesome, and 20% didn't, right? So that kind of reporting is what we expect to see being published at the end of much of this research. But it's not going to show ratings from any one team, and it's certainly not going to say this came from your company. Finally, the experiment is designed in such a way that the topics are not specific to any organization or really all that sensitive. Instead, the challenges that we've selected have broad societal implications, and they're meant to be interesting so that we can, in fact, have some real conversations, but not controversial or political. So this reduces the risk that anyone's going to say something that would cause you problems if it should leave the room. And of course, the data is going to be stored in encrypted, password-protected servers. The people who have access will include a known list of researchers who are all certified in the ethical treatment of research data. That doesn't mean it's risk-free. It is possible that researchers will be able to identify people and locations by looking at the video recordings. Those video recordings will never be publicly accessible, only available for research purposes. We could be hacked. That's always a threat. And then finally, it's always possible that people in the room could share something that is sensitive and then take it outside. And that is a fundamental risk of every meeting ever, and not unique to this experiment. But in terms of Project Snowball, in terms of bringing this work into your organization, I was looking at a list of return to the office key things to do, and there are a lot of great reasons to do it. So we hope you are interested in playing with us. It's a great way to get your team's opinions their voices about where they prefer to meet. It could be a fun way to bring people into the office because these are 60-minute meetings.
And people are saying they want to do something different when they come into the office. Give them a reason to come in, not just to take Zoom calls, which they could be doing back at home. And so this is going to be different.
It's not just pizza. It's not obviously pandering. It's actually relevant to the topic at hand, which is how do we work well wherever we are?
So you can go back, reply to the email, info@newrulesforwork.com, and let us know if you or someone in your organization would be interested in participating. You can also register as an experiment facilitator or as a participant by following the link in the email as well. So thanks for listening, and we'll be in touch next week with an update.
Yeah, and if you have any other questions, let us know because we'll try to answer them by next week.